The giant chamber filled with noise as hundreds of alien beings talked at once. The Galactic Council meeting was like every other meeting, boring and full of arguments. Ambassador Hyun-Soo from Earth sat quietly in the human section, watching the chaos around him. The Zenthari were complaining about trade routes again. Their leader Veltar waved his forearms wildly as he spoke. The blue-skinned aliens always got angry when they didn't get their way. Next to them, the crystal beings called the Collective sparkled as they made clicking sounds. Their representative Kixmoth looked like a walking diamond that could talk. Hyun-Soo looked at his notes one more time. Today would be different. Today would change everything, though none of these aliens would understand that yet. The Council recognizes the Human Colonial Union, announced the speaker, a tall gray alien with too many eyes. Hyun-Soo stood up slowly. He was not impressive compared to the other aliens. Humans were small and weak-looking. They had no natural weapons, no special powers, no advanced technology that amazed anyone. Most aliens saw humans as useful, but nothing special. "Thank you, Speaker," Hyun-Soo said in his calm voice. "I have an important announcement to make." The chamber didn't get quieter. Most aliens kept talking to each other. Humans rarely said anything important in these meetings. They usually just agreed with whatever the big powers wanted. The Human Colonial Union is ending all agreements with the Galactic Council, Hyun-Soo continued. We are leaving all shared projects. We are taking our people back to human space. This is our final message to this council. Now the chamber got quiet. Veltar stopped waving his arms. Kixmoth's crystal body stopped sparkling. The gray speaker blinked all 6 of his eyes at once. "Is this some kind of joke?" Veltar asked. His voice was deep and threatening. "No joke," Hyun-Soo replied. "Humanity is going home." The void swimmers started making their weird bubbling noises. Their leader Threndok floated in his water tank, looking confused. "But humans run half the maintenance systems in this sector," he bubbled. "Not anymore," Hyun-Soo said. "We will finish our current contracts and then leave. Thank you for everything." He picked up his small bag and walked toward the exit. The aliens stared at him like he had grown a second head. Humans didn't just leave. They followed orders. They did what they were told. They were helpful and quiet and never caused problems. Outside the chamber, Dr. So-min was already packing her research station. She had been expecting this announcement for months. Her team of human scientists worked quickly and quietly, putting years of research into storage containers. "How long do we have?" asked her assistant Jin-Ho. 2 weeks for the important stuff," So-min replied. 4 weeks for everything else?" Jin-Ho nodded and went back to work. Around them, alien scientists watched in confusion. The humans weren't just packing their personal things. They were taking everything. Every computer, every research note, every piece of equipment they had brought or built. "Why are you taking the quantum resonators?" asked Dr. Blixtar, a green-skinned alien who had worked with So-min for 3 years. "They're ours," So-min said simply. "We built them." "But the research was shared," Blixtar protested. "The ideas were shared. The actual technology belongs to us." Blixtar looked confused but didn't argue. Most aliens didn't really understand how human technology worked anyway. They just knew it made their own technology work better. On the trading station Gamma 7, a half-human named Yuki watched the human cargo ships with growing worry. She was the daughter of a human trader and a Zenthari female. Her human father had taught her to notice things that others missed. The cargo ships weren't just taking people away. They were taking everything humans had ever brought to this part of space. Manufacturing equipment, computer systems, even the coffee plants from the human agricultural section. It was like they were erasing every sign that humans had ever been. "There. This doesn't look like a normal retreat," Yuki said to her trading partner, a collective crystal named Shimtar. "Humans are just being dramatic," Shimtar clicked. "They'll be back when they need our help with something." But Yuki knew better. Her human father had taught her that humans never did anything without a good reason. They planned everything carefully. If they were leaving this completely, they had a very good reason. Back on Earth, Captain Minho received the final confirmation from the council chamber. The announcement had been made. Now the real work could begin. "Signal all colonies," he told his communication officer. "Operation Homecoming is now active." Across human space, the message went out to hundreds of worlds. Humans began packing up their lives and heading home. But it wasn't the scared retreat that aliens thought it was. The humans moved with purpose and efficiency. Professor Yunji worked late in her hidden laboratory beneath the surface of New Sol Colony. Her team had been preparing for this day for 20 years. The technology they had developed in secret was finally ready. "Are you sure this will work?" asked her assistant. "It has to work," Yunji replied. "We only get one chance to do this right." The machines around her hummed quietly. They looked simple, but they contained discoveries that would change everything. Discoveries that no alien species had ever imagined possible. Meanwhile, in the council chamber, the aliens were starting to argue about what humanity's departure meant. "Good riddance," Veltar said. "Humans were always too quiet anyway. Never knew what they were thinking." "But they maintained a lot of our systems," worried Threndok. "Who will handle the communications networks?" "We'll figure it out," Kixmoth clicked confidently. "How hard can it be?" The speaker tried to bring order to the discussion. "Perhaps we should send a delegation to negotiate with them." "Let them go," Veltar growled. "If they want to hide in their little corner of space, that's their choice. The galaxy will be better without them." Most of the council agreed. Humans had never been important enough to worry about. They were useful for boring jobs that other species didn't want to do, but they weren't powerful or dangerous or special. As the days passed, human ships filled the space lanes heading toward Earth and the other human worlds. They moved quietly and efficiently, taking their people and their belongings with them. Alien observers noted that humans seemed surprisingly well organized for a species that was supposedly giving up. "They're acting like they planned this for years," Yuki told anyone who would listen, but no one wanted to hear it. The great alien powers were already dividing up the territory and resources that humans were leaving behind. They saw opportunity, not danger. None of them realized that humanity had just removed the foundation that held their entire civilization together. They thought they were watching a minor species retreat in defeat. Instead, they were watching the beginning of the end of everything they knew. The council had observed humanity leave. They had no idea it was already too late. 6 months had passed since the humans left. At first, everything seemed normal in the galaxy. The alien species divided up the territories that humans had abandoned. Trade continued. Life went on. But then small things started going wrong. Admiral Kristak of the Zenthari fleet stared at the red warning lights flashing across his command bridge. His newest warship, the Pride of Zenthari, was supposed to be the most advanced vessel in their fleet. The ship had been designed with help from human engineers 3 years ago. "What's the problem this time?" Kristak asked his chief engineer. "The navigation system is acting strange again, sir," the engineer replied. "It keeps trying to run calculations that don't exist anymore." "Fix it." "We've tried, sir. Every time we repair one system, another one starts having problems. It's like the ship is looking for something that isn't there." Kristak growled in frustration. This was the 5th major system failure this month. His other ships were having similar problems, but only the newer ones that had been built with human consultation. Across the galaxy, Engineer Hyoknal of the Void Swimmers was dealing with his own crisis. The deep space mining operation on Kepler 442 had been running smoothly for 2 years. Now it was falling apart. "The extraction rates are down 40%, his assistant reported. "Why?" Hyoknal bubbled in his water suit. "The coordination algorithms are failing. The mining robots can't work together properly anymore." Hyoknal checked the records. The mining operation had been set up with human logistical support. The humans had helped design the workflow systems that manage thousands of robots across multiple asteroid fields. "Can we rebuild the algorithms?" "We're trying, but we don't understand how the original system worked. The humans made it look simple, but it's incredibly complex underneath." Similar problems were appearing everywhere. Communication networks that had worked perfectly for years started having delays. Computer systems developed mysterious glitches. Manufacturing plants lost efficiency for no clear reason. Dr. Boram, a Zenthari scientist, decided to investigate. She had worked closely with human researchers for 5 years and knew they were smarter than most aliens gave them credit for. Their departure might be connected to all these problems. Boram started by examining the hyperspace communication network that connected the galaxy. The system had been upgraded many times over the past decades, often with human input. She assumed the humans had just helped with simple maintenance work. She was wrong. As Boram dug deeper into the system's code, she found layer after layer of human modifications. The network looked like it had been built by the collective, but human programmers had quietly improved almost every part of it. They had made it faster, more reliable, and more efficient. But the human improvements were designed to need regular updates. Without those updates, the system was slowly breaking down. "This is impossible," Boram muttered as she studied the data. "The humans told us they were just helping with minor repairs." She found similar patterns everywhere she looked. Fusion reactors that the Zenthari thought they had designed themselves contained human innovations buried deep in the control systems. Quantum computers that belonged to the collective had human-written software managing their most complex calculations. The humans hadn't just been helping. They had been quietly improving every major technology in the galaxy, and now those improvements were failing without human maintenance. Boram tried to contact her human colleagues, but all human communication channels had gone dark. The humans weren't answering any messages from alien governments or scientists. Meanwhile, on the remote human colony of New Sol, Captain Minho was overseeing the final phases of humanity's great project. The colony looked normal from orbit, but underneath the surface, massive construction was taking place. "How are the tests going?" Minho asked Professor Yunji. "Better than expected," she replied. "The new propulsion system works perfectly. The enhanced AI networks are running smoothly. The biological improvements are ahead of schedule. And the other projects? Everything is ready. We just need a few more months to complete the final preparations." Minho nodded. Humanity had been planning this transformation for decades. While the aliens thought humans were simple and backward, human scientists had been developing technologies that would seem like magic to the rest of the galaxy. The aliens had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that humans were showing them everything they could do. In reality, humans had been carefully hiding their true capabilities while quietly making themselves essential to galactic civilization. Back in alien space, the problems were getting worse. The crystalline collective's quantum computers started producing calculation errors that their best scientists couldn't explain. Trade ships got lost when navigation systems failed. Power grids began having blackouts. "Hi," Counselor Dalvex called an emergency meeting of the major powers. "We need to figure out what's causing these system failures," he announced to the assembled leaders. "It started after the humans left," observed Keeksmoth. "But that must be a coincidence." "Is it?" asked Dr. Boram, who had been invited to present her findings. "I've been studying these failures for months. They're all connected to systems that humans helped design or maintain." The council chamber fell silent. "Are you saying the humans sabotaged our technology?" Feltar demanded. "No," Boram replied carefully. "I'm saying they made our technology dependent on their expertise. Without them, these systems are slowly breaking down." "That's ridiculous," Threndok bubbled. "Humans were just maintenance workers and junior engineers." "Were they?" Boram asked. "Look at the evidence. Every major technological advance in the past 50 years had human involvement. They weren't just helping, they were leading." The aliens didn't want to believe it. Humans were supposed to be the weak species that needed protection. They couldn't be more advanced than the great galactic powers. But the evidence was undeniable. Across the galaxy, systems that had worked perfectly for years were failing without human support. The aliens were discovering that they had been more dependent on human expertise than anyone had realized. "We need to contact them," Dalvex decided. "Send a diplomatic mission to human space." "What if they refuse to help us?" asked Keeksmoth. "Why would they refuse? They're humans. They always do what we ask." But Boram wondered if that assumption was still true. The humans had left so completely and so quietly. It didn't seem like the action of a species that just wanted to be helpful. As the galactic powers argued about what to do, the cascade of system failures continued to spread. What had started as minor inconveniences was becoming a serious crisis, and in human space the transformation continued. Professor Yoonji's laboratories worked around the clock, preparing technologies that would reshape everything. Captain Min Ho coordinated with colonies across human territory, making sure everything was ready for the next phase. The aliens thought they were dealing with system failures. They didn't realize they were watching the death of their old civilization and the birth of something entirely new. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had never been the junior partners in this relationship. They had been the architects, and now they were ready to reveal what they had really been building all along. 1 year after humanity's departure, the galaxy was falling apart. The great trade networks that had connected thousands of worlds for centuries were breaking down. Ships got lost in hyperspace when navigation systems failed. Entire planets lost power when fusion reactors stopped working properly. The economic system that had made the galaxy rich and peaceful was collapsing. High Counselor Dalvek stood in the emergency session chamber, looking at reports from across galactic space. Every day brought news of more failures, more problems, more systems that simply stopped working. "The situation is worse than we thought," announced Dr. Talmesh, the galaxy's leading expert on alien biology and technology. "We're not just dealing with equipment failures, we're dealing with the collapse of our entire technological foundation." The assembled leaders from the major species looked worried. Veltar of the Zenthari had aged visibly in the past year. His military was struggling to keep order as their ships malfunctioned. Kixmoth of the Collective sparkled nervously. Their quantum computers were producing errors that made trade calculations impossible. "How is this possible?" demanded Threndok from his water tank. "We built these systems ourselves, did we?" Dr. Talmesh asked. "I've been studying the historical records. Every major technological advance in the past 2 centuries shows signs of human involvement. Not just consultation, actual design work." She activated a holographic display showing the Galactic Communication Network. "Look at this. We always thought the Collective built this system 50 years ago, but buried in the code are thousands of improvements made by human programmers. The system looks alien, but it runs on human innovations." The hologram changed to show a Zenthari warship design. "Same thing here. This ship design that we're so proud of? It's based on human engineering principles. The Zenthari engineers thought they were making improvements, but they were actually following a blueprint that humans had subtly provided." Veltar's 4 arms tensed with anger. "Are you saying humans tricked us?" "I'm saying humans guided us," Talmesh replied. "Every species in this galaxy has been following technological paths that humans quietly suggested. We thought we were making our own discoveries, but we were actually being led." The silence in the chamber was heavy. No one wanted to believe that their great civilizations had been managed by the species they had considered weakest and least important. "We need to contact them immediately," Dalvex decided. "Send our best diplomats to human space." Captain Do-hyun of the Zenthari diplomatic fleet received the mission with mixed feelings. He had always respected humans, even when his superiors dismissed them. Now he was leading 12 ships to human territory, hoping to convince them to come back and fix the mess they had apparently left behind. But when Do-hyun's fleet reached the edge of human space, they found something impossible. "Sir," his navigation officer reported, "I'm reading energy signatures that don't match any known technology." "Show me." The main screen displayed a view of the new Sol system. Where Do-hyun expected to see a normal human colony, he found something that looked like a dream. Cities floated in space without any visible support. Ships moved between planets without engines or fuel trails. The planets themselves seemed to be glowing with some kind of internal light. "This can't be right," Do-hyun muttered. "Run the scans again." "Scans confirmed, sir. The human colonies have been completely rebuilt using technology we don't recognize." Do-hyun ordered his fleet to approach slowly. As they got closer, the impossible became undeniable. The humans had transformed their entire civilization in less than a year. Their cities were marvels of engineering that seemed to defy physics. Their ships moved like living things through space. "Sir, we're receiving a communication." A figure appeared on the screen. It was clearly human, but different somehow. The woman looked younger and healthier than any human Do-hyun had seen before. Her eyes seemed to contain depths that hadn't been there a year ago. "I am Jiwoo, speaker for the Human Stellar Empire," she said calmly. "Welcome to our space, Captain Do-hyun." Thank you," Do-hyun managed. "I'm here on behalf of the Galactic Council. We need to discuss the situation in galactic space." "What situation?" Jiwoo asked with innocent curiosity. "The system failures, the economic collapse, the technology breakdowns. We believe they're connected to your people's departure." Jiwoo nodded thoughtfully. "I see. And what would you like us to do about that?" "Come back," Do-hyun said simply. "Help us fix what's broken." "Why?" The question caught Do-hyun off guard. Because we need your help." "Do you?" Jiwoo asked. "For centuries you told us that we were the weak ones, the junior partners, the species that needed guidance from our betters. Why would you need help from us?" Do-hyun felt uncomfortable. The human's tone was polite, but there was something different about her. She spoke with a quiet confidence that no human had ever shown before. "We were wrong," he admitted. "We didn't understand how important your contributions were." "No, you didn't," Jiwoo agreed. "You saw what you wanted to see. Helpful, quiet humans who did what they were told and didn't ask for much in return." "So you'll help us?" Jiwoo smiled, but it wasn't a warm expression. "We've helped you for 200 years, Captain. We guided your development, solved your problems, and prevented your wars. We kept your civilizations running smoothly while letting you believe you were in charge." "Then why did you stop?" "Because we realized you would never grow up if we kept taking care of you," Jiwoo replied. "We thought that if we left, you might finally learn to take responsibility for yourselves." Do-hyun felt a chill run down his spine. "And if we can't, then you'll face the consequences of your dependence." The communication ended. Do-hyun stared at the blank screen, trying to process what he had just heard. The humans weren't coming back. They had apparently decided that the galaxy needed to learn a hard lesson about self-reliance. But as his fleet prepared to leave human space, Do-hyun caught glimpses of the technology that humans were now using. Ships that moved faster than light, without hyperspace engines, energy shields that could stop anything, weapons that could reshape matter itself. The humans hadn't just advanced beyond their former allies. They had advanced beyond anything the galaxy had ever imagined possible. When Do-hyun returned to the council with his report, the reaction was a mixture of disbelief and growing panic. "They refused?" Veltar roared. "How dare they refuse?" "It's worse than that," Do-hyun replied quietly. "I don't think they need us anymore. I think they've moved beyond us entirely." Dr. Talmesh studied the sensor readings that Do-hyun's fleet had recorded. The energy signatures were unlike anything in galactic science. The humans had apparently developed technologies that made all other species look primitive by comparison. "How? Is this possible?" she whispered. "A year ago, they were using the same technology as everyone else." "Were they?" Do-hyun asked. "Or were they just pretending to be at our level while they prepared for something else?" As the galactic powers struggled to understand what had happened, the system failures continued to spread. Without human maintenance and guidance, the technological foundation of galactic civilization was crumbling. The aliens had thought they were watching a minor species retreat in defeat. Instead, they had been watching the emergence of something far more powerful than they had ever imagined. And now it was too late to do anything about it. 3 years had passed since humanity's departure, and the galaxy was dying. Dr. Hexalara, the most brilliant physicist in Zenthari space, worked desperately in her laboratory, trying to understand what had gone wrong. Around her, Computer screens showed the collapse happening everywhere. Trade routes that had existed for millennia were empty. Planets that had thrived for centuries were going dark. Entire civilizations were falling back to primitive technology. There has to be an explanation, she muttered, studying the broken code from yet another failed system. Her assistant brought her another data core from a crashed ship. This one came from the communication relay on Proxima Station. It stopped working yesterday. Hexalara plugged the core into her analysis system and began examining the code. Like every other failed system, it looked normal on the surface, but as she dug deeper, she found the same pattern she had been seeing everywhere. Human modifications, thousands of them, hidden so deep in the code that no one had noticed them before. But these weren't just improvements or fixes. As Hexalara studied the pattern more carefully, she realized something terrifying. The human modifications weren't random. They were part of a plan. "This is impossible," she whispered. Every human change to galactic technology had been designed to work together. Communication networks talked to transportation systems. Manufacturing computers shared data with mining operations. Defense networks coordinated with power grids. The humans hadn't just been helping individual species improve their technology. They had been quietly connecting everything into one giant system that only they fully understood. And now that system was falling apart without their guidance. Hexalara called up historical records and began tracing the timeline of human involvement in galactic technology. What she found made her feel sick. 200 years ago, when the Zenthari first encountered humans, the alien species had been much more primitive. The Zenthari had barely mastered spaceflight. The collective could only build simple computers. The Void Swimmers were still learning how to mine asteroids efficiently. But after meeting humans, every species had experienced rapid technological advancement. At the time, they had assumed it was natural progress accelerated by peaceful contact with other species. They had been wrong. Hexalara found evidence that humans had carefully studied each species' psychology and capabilities. They had identified what each species was naturally good at and what they would never be able to understand on their own. Then they had guided each species to develop in specific directions. The Zenthari were naturally aggressive and militaristic, so humans had helped them build powerful warships. But the ship designs required human-provided navigation systems that the Zenthari couldn't replicate. The collective were excellent at quantum calculations, so humans had helped them build faster computers. But the computers needed human-written software to function properly. The Void Swimmers were skilled at working in dangerous environments, so humans had helped them develop deep space mining technology. But the mining operations required human logistical coordination to be efficient. Each species had been given advanced technology in their area of strength, while remaining dependent on humans for everything else. They played us, Hexalara realized. For 200 years they played us. She began writing a report for the council, but as she worked, she made an even more disturbing discovery. Hidden in the deepest layers of the galactic communication network, she found encrypted files that had been left behind by the humans. The files were protected by security that she couldn't break, but the headers were readable. They contained names like Project Guidance, Species Development Protocols, and Transition Timeline. One file was labeled Final Phase Authorization, Director Sang-Ho. Hexalara had heard that name before. Sang-Ho had been a quiet human bureaucrat who worked in galactic logistics coordination. He had seemed harmless, just another human doing boring administrative work that no one else wanted to handle. Now she realized that Sang-Ho had probably been running the entire operation. She tried to access more files, but they were too well protected. However, she did find one document that wasn't encrypted. It appeared to be a personal message left behind by someone named Commander J. Min. "If you're reading this," the message began, "it means our departure was successful, and you finally started to understand what was really happening. Congratulations on figuring it out. You're only about 50 years behind schedule, but better late than never." Hexalara read on with growing horror. "We've been managing your species development since first contact, not because we wanted to control you, but because we had to. Left to yourselves, you would have destroyed each other within a century. The Zenthari would have conquered everyone. The collective would have turned the galaxy into a giant computer. The void swimmers would have strip-mined every planet. So we gave you the illusion of independence while keeping you on paths that wouldn't lead to total disaster. We made sure your technologies were powerful enough to keep you happy, but limited enough to keep you safe. We had hoped that eventually you would mature enough to handle true independence. But after 2 centuries of observation, we realized that wasn't going to happen. You were too comfortable being guided, too used to having your problems solved for you. So we decided to try a different approach. We're leaving you to face the consequences of your dependence. Maybe facing real hardship will finally teach you to grow up. If you survive the next few decades, perhaps we can have a more honest relationship in the future. If you don't, well, that will answer some important questions about your potential. The message was signed, "With hopes for your eventual maturity, Commander Jamin, Human Strategic Development Division." Hexalara stared at the screen in shock. The humans hadn't just been secretly advanced, they had been secretly in charge. Every major decision made by the galactic powers had been influenced by human manipulation so subtle that no one had ever suspected it. And now, they were gone, leaving the galaxy to discover how helpless it had become. She finished her report and sent it to the High Council, knowing that the information would cause panic. But the truth had to be shared, no matter how terrifying it was. Within hours of receiving Hexalara's report, the galactic powers called an emergency session. Representatives from every major species gathered to hear the impossible truth. The humans weren't our allies, High Counselor Dalvex announced to the packed chamber. They were our caretakers. For 2 centuries, they've been managing our development. Like parents caring for children. The reaction was explosive. Veltar roared in fury. Kixmoth's crystal body flared with angry light. Threndok's water tank bubbled violently. "This is impossible," Veltar shouted. "Humans are weak, they have no special technology." "That's what they wanted us to think," Dalvex replied grimly. "Dr. Hexalara's research shows that they've been hiding their true capabilities while making us dependent on their hidden support." "So what do we do?" asked Kixmoth. "We survive," Dalvex said. "We learn to maintain our own technology. We build our own systems. We prove that we can be independent." But even as he spoke the words, Dalvex knew the truth. The galaxy's civilization had become so dependent on human guidance that most species no longer remembered how to solve complex problems on their own. The humans had given them a choice: grow up or face extinction, and time was running out to prove they could choose correctly. Meanwhile, in human space, the transformation was complete. Humanity had evolved beyond anything their former allies could understand, and they were watching to see if the galaxy they had left behind could learn to stand on its own feet. The test had begun. The results would determine the future of galactic civilization. 5 years after humanity's departure, the galaxy was a shadow of its former self. The great Zenthari Empire had split into dozens of warring factions as their ships broke down and they couldn't build new ones. The crystalline collective's quantum computers had failed completely, leaving them unable to perform the calculations that their entire economy depended on. The void swimmers had abandoned most of their deep space colonies when the mining operations collapsed. Billions had died. Entire species faced extinction. The golden age of galactic civilization was over. Elder Kitan of what remained of the Zenthari government sat in his ruined command center, staring at reports of another colony going dark. His people were starving on worlds that had once been paradise. Their technology was failing faster than they could repair it. A communication alert drew his attention. For a moment, hope flared in his chest. Maybe it was news of a breakthrough, a way to fix their broken systems. Instead, it was an announcement that changed everything. "This is Admiral Suni of the Human Stellar Empire," said the figure on the screen. "We are returning to galactic space." Kitan stared at the human woman. She looked young and healthy, nothing like the desperate refugees he had expected. Behind her, he could see the bridge of a ship that seemed to be made of light itself. "We come with an offer," Sune continued. The human empire is prepared to provide assistance to any species that requests it. We can restore your technology, heal your worlds, and bring peace to your conflicts. Kithan's hope turned to confusion. What do you want in return? Sune smiled, but it wasn't the expression of an equal negotiating with another equal. It was the patient smile of an adult talking to a child. Acknowledgement of reality, she said simply. For too long, this galaxy has lived under the illusion that all species are equal partners. That illusion led to the current crisis. We offer a new arrangement based on truth. What kind of truth? That humanity has advanced beyond the other species in this galaxy, that your civilizations require guidance to survive, that the age of pretending otherwise has ended. Kithan felt his pride warring with his desperation. His people were dying, but accepting help meant admitting that the Zinthari Empire had been living a lie for centuries. You're saying we should become your subjects? We're saying you should accept the reality that you already were our subjects. You just didn't know it. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy as human ships appeared in every major system. The humans offered aid, but only to those willing to acknowledge humanity's superiority. Most species chose survival over pride. On the rebuilt galactic capital world, President Taijung addressed the assembled representatives of the surviving species. The ceremony took place in a magnificent hall that humans had built in just 3 days using technology that seemed like magic. Welcome to the new galactic order, Taijung announced. For centuries, this galaxy suffered under the illusion of equality. Different species pretended to be partners when they were actually at vastly different levels of development. The alien representatives sat quietly. Some looked ashamed. Others seemed relieved. A few appeared angry, but powerless. That illusion led to inefficiency, conflict, and ultimately collapse, Taijung continued. We offer something better, a system based on honest recognition of capabilities and limitations. Dr. Yu Jin, now serving as Humanities Minister of Galactic Affairs, stepped forward to explain the new structure. Each species will be given roles suited to their natural abilities, she announced. The Zinthari will serve as peacekeepers, but under human command. The collective will handle data processing using human-designed systems. The Void Swimmers will continue mining operations following human logistics. And in return, asked one of the alien delegates, you will live better lives than you ever have before, Yujin replied. No more wars, no more poverty, no more technological failures. Humanity will ensure that every species reaches its full potential within its natural limitations. The new system was remarkably efficient. Within months, the galaxy was functioning smoothly again. Trade resumed, conflicts ended, technology worked perfectly, but everyone understood the price. In the rebuilt council chambers, statues of human leaders stood where alien heroes had once been honored. The other species lived comfortable lives, but they did so knowing they were children being cared for by their betters. Some aliens tried to rebel, of course. The proud Zinthari faction led by General Vokhtar attempted to resist human authority. Their rebellion lasted exactly 6 hours before human ships arrived and peacefully disabled their entire fleet without firing a shot. How? Vokhtar asked as he was taken into custody. We've been preparing for this possibility for 200 years, explained the human officer. We know every ship design, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine in this galaxy. We helped you develop all of them. The rebellion ended not with violence but with the rebels simply giving up when they realized how completely outmatched they were. Ambassador Wanho was chosen to address the new generation of alien students in the galactic educational system. These young beings would grow up knowing the truth from the beginning instead of discovering it the hard way. Your ancestors believed they were partners with humanity, Wanho told the mixed class of alien children. They thought they were equals in a great galactic civilization. A young Zinthari raised her hand. Why did they think that? Because humans let them think it, Wanho replied. Your ancestors weren't ready for the truth. They needed to believe they were independent, even while they depended on human guidance for everything important. That seems mean, observed a collective youth. Sometimes kindness looks like meanness, Wanho explained. If you tell children that they're not ready to make important decisions, they get angry. It's easier to let them think they're in charge while you quietly make sure they don't hurt themselves. But we're not children, protested a void swimmer student. Compared to humans, you are, Wanho said gently. That's not an insult, it's just a fact. Humans have abilities that your species haven't developed yet. Maybe someday you will. Until then, we'll take care of you. The students accepted this explanation because they had never known anything different. Unlike their ancestors, they wouldn't spend centuries believing in an illusion of equality. The galaxy settled into its new reality. The humans ruled openly now, but they ruled well. Conflict was rare. Poverty was eliminated. Technology advanced, steadily under human guidance. But in quiet moments, some of the older aliens remembered the time when they had thought they were free. They remembered believing that their species were the masters of their own destiny. They had learned too late that freedom had been an illusion. But they had also learned that the illusion had been kinder than the truth. The council had observed humanity leave, thinking they were losing a minor member. Instead, they had lost their secret guardians. And when those guardians returned, they came not as equals but as the benevolent rulers they had always been. The galaxy had realized it was already too late to change the relationship. All they could do was accept it and try to be grateful that their caretakers were wise and kind. In the end, most of them were grateful. It was easier to be happy children than struggling adults, and humanity was content to care for them, as they always had. The only difference was that now everyone knew the truth.